So, I was supposed to record this like a month ago. But you know what happened? Life was like, nah. And I was like, yeah, you right. And here we are. um, so this isn't gonna be some profound, published, wow, I'm so enlightened episode. This one is gonna be not I wouldn't say messy, but because I can be messy. It's gonna be more of more so just because life can be a little messy sometimes. And for those of you who've been faithfully watching every episode since this podcast was launched, I tried to do it weekly, but it's probably been over a month since I was last here. So we are back again after some time away. So thank you for being so patient. For those of you who have reached out and have asked for an update on when the next episode was going to be, we finally arrived. So here we are. This episode, this is going to be episode 4, and again, nothing crazy, no introspective stuff. Well, sort of. I mean, because the whole podcast is about introspection, but this one is just we're going to call this one an invitation to let it be messy. Welcome to episode 4. For those of you who are just joining for the first time, my name is Angel. And the whole purpose of this is to be able to bring a place where people can come and just be their absolute selves in whatever part of the journey they're in. So thank you for joining. And I hope you can find that community within this space because that's the whole purpose of this. So thank you for coming. I'm so happy you're here. So let's talk about this pause. you know, in my case, it was over a month long. But it's one of those pauses where you're like, I should be growing, but really you just want to lay on the floor and scroll through memes until you feel like you're human again. Sometimes that can be to like 2 in the afternoon, and you're like, okay, I think I'm ready to start my day. Now, normally in another episode, I'd probably be like, hey, that's probably not good. You should probably try to be productive if you can. But there's just sometimes in life when you are not going to have that energy. And normally we try to mask that and just push past it. And that's good. You should always try to, especially on the previous episodes when we're talking about breaking habits and trying to start new things. Yes, absolutely. But when you're in the process of growth and on this journey, no one really talks about how exhausting it is. It is so exhausting sometimes, and it creeps up on you too because you're all motivated and you're fired up. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna be brand new, and you are for like a couple weeks. This guy, and then wham, out of nowhere, you just wake up and you're like, I can't even. I feel like I got hit by a truck. What is going on? That's your boy right here. So the truth is, life got a little messy, and I always say that I'm gonna relate to you as best as I can. I'm gonna share my experiences. Well, I didn't record because I wasn't okay inside. I wasn't broken. I wasn't lazy. I was just human. I was so exhausted from trying to keep up this new program, and you know it can get tough, man. It's tiring, brother. Think about it this way. You have this idea of what you want to do and who you want to be and where you want to go, but you also have to manage real life, right? You're still an adult, you still got to go to work, you still got to pay bills, you still got to show up for everybody, but you're trying to be something new. That's not easy. That's exhausting, bro. You know what I mean? Come on. Like sometimes being human looks like doing nothing for a while. Just don't do it. And that's okay. And that's sacred too, okay? Because that's showing up for yourself, in this process of growth and in re-parenting your inner child. He's gonna get tired because remember, if you think about inner child growth, right? And where you're at in life, you're a full grown adult, right? The outside part of you has adapted to life and everything you have to do, but the little guy inside hasn't. He's kind of stuck wherever he got left or wherever she got left. So imagine imagine working an 8-hour job and you bring like a toddler with you and say, "All right, bud, get ready." Gonna rock his world. He's not gonna know what to do. He's gonna be tired after he lifts the first box. That's hard. That can be really, really hard. So healing is exhausting, right? Like how many times do I have to learn the same lesson? And this is important because I can't tell you how many times, I think I actually spoke about it in another episode, where you find yourself repeating the same mistake over and over, and you're not exactly sure why you keep falling into that same trap. You don't realize it till after you've done it 11 times and you're like, okay, this doesn't feel right. But you finally, you're like, hey, this, something's wrong. Why does this keep happening, or why does this do I keep getting the same result? So every time I think I leveled up, life hands me the same test, but in a different costume. That seems to be the theme in growth. It's like, okay, let's see how ready you really are. Here's the same problem. Are you going to solve it? Are you going to repeat the same thing? Most of the time, as I've said, you will find yourself repeating the same thing until you recognize that there's a pattern, and then you can correct that, right? But sometimes I'm like, seriously, wait, we're back here again? Didn't I figure this out last time? Maybe, or maybe not. Um, Sometimes your soul's like, yeah, you did, but this time, here's some snacks. Like that's what you learned from the last time, but maybe there's something still you need to learn in that. So, unfortunately, growth isn't really a straight line. It's a bunch of spirals with glitter and crying. That's really the best way I can put it. And you trip on your own feet a lot. You're definitely like, okay, but I did this last time. It's not working this time, because maybe this time that's not the lesson you have to learn. Maybe there's something else. You could use the tools you had last time to get you through it, but that's not exactly what you're supposed to learn. So, what is the lesson? What is this lesson trying to teach me? That's what I always try to ask myself, or at least I tried to in this past month. And I can tell you a little bit later about what I learned. There's something did come of it. But you don't have to be on. Okay. What else? The pressure to be on. Why did it take me so long to come back? And I think a lot of times in this growth journey, we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves, right? Because there's a huge gap between where you left your inner child and where you're at on the outside as an adult. Okay. And we tend to put pressure, or at least I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. For example, I was like, man, I got to record this episode. Why am I taking so long? And I realized that in trying to force myself to get up and record a new episode, it only prolonged the recording. And I'd end up so frustrated. Part of me would be like, you know what? Maybe tomorrow. And I'd like to think that those parts of me that were like, maybe tomorrow, are the unconscious mind, right? The inner child who's always going to get its way. He's going to get you no matter what. And he was like, I don't like that very much. So you continue with that idea, big man, and I'm going to do what I want to do. That's really how it happens. And it kept prolonging. It kept prolonging. But here's the truth. You know, um, there's all this pressure sometimes when you're in the journey of growth. We tend to put that mask on once we've seen on the other side, and we try to sound wise. Try to sound put together, maybe even healed or helpful. But the truth is, I sometimes we don't want to be walking motivational posters. Sometimes we just want to be people, right? That remember the gap that I spoke about. The gap is that you're a full grown adult who knows how to show up in the world. The inner child doesn't really know how to show up yet. And so you're expecting him to get there, or her to get to that point, but he doesn't want that, or he doesn't know how to do that. He hasn't learned to adapt yet. So he's like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be a motivational speaker. I don't want to heal everybody. I want to be relaxed. I want to be chill. I just want to be a person. I want to be messy. And so who's figuring it out one snack and one mood swing at a time? That's what the kid wants to do. He wants to be the one figuring all that out. And sometimes it'll push you back as until you recognize that that's what he wants, or that's what she wants. It's just not going to go anywhere. And so that's kind of why these phases can sometimes take a little longer than some. Sometimes it goes quick. Sometimes I call it the funk phase. I'm in a funk. We've had those funks where we're just like, I don't really want to do it. And it's funny because I would always wonder, like, I'll give you a perfect example. I grew up on like video games. Most boys do, right? So I'd get these phases where all I want to do is just play games. And I'll get like super excited and I'll get back into a game. And then I'll play that, I'll get tired, and then I'll get back to reality, I guess. And then a whole 3 months will go by before I feel that need to play again. And I'd never, that's the pattern. It's like, why am I feeling this every couple months? What I wasn't putting together was that those times when I had that excitement to play video games again was when I was exhausted, when the inner child was just like, I haven't had enough of you, big man, and whatever it is you're trying to do. I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to chill and play games. And I'd become a couch potato and do absolutely nothing. And that was my point of exhaustion. And I would just call it a funk and be like, "Ah, I'll be out of it soon." But I was ignoring the bigger problem because we would just unconsciously be like, okay, this is not going to last. I'll get through it. I'll be back. But it's like your nervous system just shuts down. It's like enough. And we're missing out on those cues, you know. Sometimes it can be a week, sometimes it can be a month, you know. You get the idea. Um that phase, that little phase of or the funk phase or the goo phase because it's sticky and messy and yuck. We'll stick with the funk. That phase is very sacred. Okay, that's a very sacred place to be. So if you're in the middle of your mess, if your inner room looks like a tornado of emotions and half-eaten dreams, good. Great, actually. You're not behind, you're not broken. You're just in that goo phase, that funk, okay? Like the caterpillar before the butterfly, but gooier, messy. It doesn't really mean you're failing, okay? It just means you're becoming. As long as you're paying attention. Because if you're not, then you're just going to keep repeating it over and over again until you're like, something's not right here, guys. What's going on? Right? Um, it's kind of funny because talking about that gap, you know, between the inner child and the adult phase, you know, the adult exterior that we're holding, you know, in a couple of episodes prior, we talked about removing the masks and what that empty space kind of feels like when you don't really know where to go. And so that funk is what you're going to encounter a lot along the way. It doesn't really make sense. There's usually no direction, and people will always say you got to listen to yourself. You got to know what you want. And what does that look like, right? Well, I'll give you a scenario. um After these month long of just kind of like not knowing what to do, there was a point yesterday where literally the day before, I was just kind of sitting with myself, and I felt like this excitement at the thought of going out for a walk. You know, I was like, what do I was in bed, I was moping around, and I just had a real conversation with myself. I'm like, look, bud, I put my hand on my heart and I was like, look, dude, I don't know what's going on. But I realized that I've been putting you under a lot, and I realize I've had a lot of expectations of you, but I haven't really given you the chance to do what you want. And so when you're speaking to your inner child, you kind of have they say reparenting, right? You have to kind of show up for your inner self, your inner child, as a father, as you would a father for a son, a mother for a daughter, a mother for a son, etc., etc. And you kinda gotta speak to yourself. What I try to do is I imagine that I'm speaking to a young kid. How would you speak to them? What would you say? Um, would you be tender, loving? And you give to that part of you what you needed as a kid, or just imagine you're speaking to your own son. How would you speak to a child? And I said, look, I realize that we've been very busy. We've been having trains and trains of thoughts. And what do you want to do today? You know, and I just kind of sat back and just closed my eyes for a second, and I saw myself literally taking a quick shower and going out into the sun. So I did that. I was like, you know what? We're going to do that just for you. We're going to do that as if it's a complete separate entity. It's not, it's within you, but as if I'm speaking to a complete separate entity. And I went out for a walk, and it was great. We spent an hour, and right at the end of the walk, I was thinking about food. I'm like, man, what would be something good to eat? Before I left the house, I had already planned on getting like Greek food or something, and McDonald's popped in my head, and I'm like, "Is that what you want? You want McDonald's with like a little ice cream cone? Yeah, all right, let's go. Fuck it, let's do it. I'll go get you McDonald's, right? Because I don't know how it if it's for everybody it's different, but for me, like if it's a thought that pops up randomly but feels good, I'd like to think that that's our inner self speaking to us, you know, because it's hard to distinguish what is egoic, right? And what is the inner child? And I've been able to distinguish that when things are from the ego, They tend to be filled thoughts that come from the ego and our um, program that we're currently running, our way of being, our habits. They tend to fill you with anxiety, like, oh my god, I got to do this, oh my god, I got to. That's very egoic. It's just like driving you nuts. It's the little voice that's like, you don't forget to do that, and the stuff from within, the part of you that really wants to do things, it's just joy. It's like, man, that would be actually kind of cool if I just had like a burger or some fries. That sounds exciting. Let me go do that. And so I did that. I went to McDonald's, I got some fries, some apple pies, some chicken tenders, whatever, because that was my while I was there, I was like, man, that really does bring me back to my childhood. I would love the McDonald's. My mom would take us to McDonald's. And it's important to recognize that we can't forget that that child that we left behind is in a different developmental stage than where we're at. So it's gonna want to do things sometimes that kids want to do. And as a fully grown adult on the outside, we tend to say to ourselves, that doesn't seem right. That's not something an adult, that's not something I would do. No, no, don't say that. Don't give yourself the opportunity to do those things, even if it seems childish, even if it seems like the wrong thing to do, right? It's like we talked about in life, you got to meet people where they are to truly understand what they're going through. Well, if you want to grow internally, you got to meet your inner child where he was at when he got left behind and stuck into the unconscious mind. So he wanted fries, he wanted the sun. I gave it to him. Came home, I messed around, played my guitar because I grew up on music. He wanted to play guitar. I played guitar and it was fun. I played for like a whole hour. I don't think I've played for an hour and as long as I could remember, but I did that and I said, this is for you. And then I got on my Xbox and I played for a little bit. Same thing. I'm like, you want to do that? That's for you because it felt good. Right. And then I said, tomorrow we got to be more productive. So tomorrow I'm going to give you a little more time, but we got to try to record something. So I woke up today. I woke up a little later. I didn't go to the gym for once. I slept in and I was like, we got to record this episode. I'm going to let you take the reins and the direction. And this episode, this is not even what was supposed to happen on episode 4. This was going to be a completely different episode. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let you do what you want to do. You tell me what you think. We'll figure it out. We put together some ideas and wham, here we are. And this is probably the most fun I've had. Making an episode. But that's what it looks like. That's what my time, what my funk look like, what my inner child conversations look like. And my hope is that you can kind of see that and figure that out for yourself, what that looks like for you, because it's different for everyone. It might be the same, but I feel like the hardest thing to do is truly connect with yourself because you don't know which cues are the right ones to follow. Is it the ego? Is it the inner child? How do I do that? What does that look like? Well, here's a snippet. So I hope it can bring insight to you. And another thing I noted while I was in the shower, I was thinking, I was like, maybe this isn't really a permanent thing, right? It's like if your inner child got left behind at this developmental stage, at this point in life, then over time, I imagine with practice and listening to it and feeling good, it will eventually meet you where you're at, right? So you're meeting it where it's at, you're teaching it, you're reparenting it, you're giving it patience, love, understanding, wisdom. Eventually, it's gonna match and meet you up where you are, right? You think about people and adults who have had pretty good, stable households and good developmental stage progress. Like they're well-rounded adults. They're playful, they're fun, they know when to be serious, they know when things are important, et cetera, et cetera. I believe we can all get there. We can definitely get there. Just meet it where it's at. Eventually, I'm more than certain it's going to catch up to you. I'm still figuring it out as I go, but this feels pretty damn good. This is the first time I felt productive. This is the first time I felt good in over a month. And all I did was simply say, hey, man, I hear you. What do you want to do? And that's it. And now here we are. We're back on the board. We're recording again. I feel great. I'm excited to be here talking to you guys. And so I would like to think of this episode of Let It Be Messy, right? Is just a little love letter from my own inner child. The one who never cared about being on time or doing things perfectly, just wanted to feel safe, seen, and allowed to be messy, right? Because you think about kids, go find any toddler, ask them if they care about how they look, if they care about what time it is. They don't. They just want to have fun. They just want to be their absolute selves. And that's great. That's feel free to do that. Give yourself permission to do that. It's not to say leave all the responsibilities behind. No, it's like, hey, maybe I can devote an hour a day to this wonderful cause of my inner self and give him a chance to play, give her a chance to play, right? We all need that. We never really grow up, right? We're all children and older bodies. We still can be fun and not so uptight about time and things we got to do no, just go have fun. Have a good time. So if you're listening right now and you haven't showered in 3 days and you're feeling all the feels, this one is definitely for you. Maybe shower though. So let's stop pretending we're supposed to have it all figured out. This isn't really a test. It's just recess. Thank you again for coming. I hope you enjoy this one, and I can't wait for the next one. I'll see you soon. Peace.